Hello everyone, it's 3rd of December, it's Gukesh the Maraju from India against Ding Lijian from China, it's Challenger against the World Champion, it's round 7 and I have to say it in the very beginning, it's my favorite game so far. And of course, Grandmaster Nikita.MESHKOVS with you. Before we jump to the game, real quick information about the Chessify platform. These guys are offering amazing tools for your chess improvement. First of all, the thing what I'm using mostly is different sort of databases and cloud engines for better quality and to do it faster. So you can use promo code MESHKOVS20 for the first purchase to get 20% off. Feel free to check referral link in the description and let's go. So today Gukesh played with white and he started the game with a move knight f3. This was, something very flexible because white can pretty much play anything in the next stage of the game depending on what black is doing. So world champion plays d5 and Gukesh plays g3. A very interesting approach, sort of ratty. I used to play it quite actively a bit before pandemic, and at some point it was even my main approach. So against this system, black has wide variety of options. You can play knight f6, bishop f5. You can play, let's say, bishop g4 as well, knight f6, e6. You can go for a very traditional c6, or you can play g6. That's what world champion did in this game. And the point is that you're postponing bringing your knight to f6, let's say bishop g2, bishop g7. So knight stands on g8 and you want to play e5. So let's say short castle and then black plays e5, occupies the center, and well, it's not a big deal for white because usually they're responding with d3, e4, but we get a very fine position and black objectively is okay. For that reason, after g6, Gukesh immediately played d4. And after bishop g7, he plays c4. So he, sort of undermines the center from the queen side, and Ding responds with c6, solidifying his pawn structure. And after bishop g2, he plays knight f6. After short castle, he plays short castle as well, keeping attention alive. So this is a very first critical moment of the game because at least in my database after castlings, I checked that it's almost 19,000 of games that were played in this position, and yeah, it's a huge heavyweight battlefield for theoretical discussions. So white has many plans how to play here. Just a quick illustration. Gukesh made another move, but the most popular line is to take cd4, cd5, and then white plays knight c3, black plays knight c6, and you may say like, okay, what's the point to neutralize the tension and then we have completely symmetrical position? Yes, but then white plays knight e5, and then they are sort of half a tempi ahead of their opponent, and they're the first one who tries to strike, to fight for the initiative, and so on. So in this type of a game, white gets pretends to get a very, very tiny advantage and slight initiative. So this is a very traditional way of playing it. I've studied it like maybe 15 years ago when I still studied in the school. Alternatively, you can go crazy with a move like knight c3, a really provocative approach, and the point is that white in this case wants to sacrifice the pawn on c4, but in return we get the center. but black has an extra pawn. And this is absolutely opposite example to the previous one, because in this kind of a battle, white has a full control over the center, black has an extra pawn, and it's a very double-edged, complicated fight where both sides has mutual chances for success. And probably the balance between craziness and positional approach is queen b3. Of course, these three options are not the only ones, but these are the most popular ones. And the point is that, okay, we're putting pressure on d5 pawn, on b7 pawn, and not letting bishop from c8 to advance anywhere. So in most of the cases, black just tries to reduce the tension on the queen side with queen b6, and in this case already white usually continues with knight c3 because pawn on c4 is not hanging, and black plays something like bishop f5 for rook d8, and we have a very balanced type of early middle game, and black is rock solid, but white still has different approaches how to try to crack this very stable position for black. But guess what happened in the game? So Gukesh suddenly pulls off a move that happened about 30 times of all time on practice, and this is a move rook e1. Not a completely new move, but yeah, funnily enough, according to my database, it's 15th move by popularity. So pretty much, I guess, in Gukesh's team, the main point was that, okay, there's not a chance that your opponent ever check such a move, because it's not popular at all. And I think it just shows the incredible sophistication of Team Gukesh in cooking opening ideas in their laboratories for the game to surprise their opponent Ding Lejeune. So after rook e1, Ding was in a think tank almost for half an hour, and he played the most critical move, d takes c4, and Gukesh immediately responded with e4. So it's sort of a completely new position that appears on the board and never seen on practice earlier, although the ideas remains the same. So that's why I've shown the knight c3 move, because then black plays b5, but in this case, if you play b5 to solidify the pawn structure on the queen side, then knight is not anymore under attack with this b4, and it has to sidestep somewhere. So basically, it makes sense for sure, and it has some, let's say, not without poison, this rook e1 approach. So in this position, world champion plays bishop g4. You know, it makes sense to develop the queen side pieces and maybe even just give up the light square bishop and then finish development with knight d7 followed by e5 or knight b6 or whatever, depends on what white plays at this point. And then Gukesh very quickly plays knight bd2. So it's interesting that rook e1 obviously came as a huge surprise to Ding, and at this point, after knight bd2, he was down 35 minutes. Gukesh pretty much blitzed out all the first moves instantly, and he barely spent 2 minutes, while Ding had about 1 hour and 20 minutes. So only after 5 minutes thoughts of world champion decided to play a move which surprised pretty much everyone, I believe, all the spectators, because normal move would be b5, similar to what we have seen earlier, and most likely Gukesh would follow up with h3. And in this case, it's essential to understand that bishop has to go back, because if you trade the bishop f3, then I take with a knight, and I have two major ideas. Either I undermine you on the queen side with b3, or I push e-pawn up to the maximum. So for instance, if you go knight bd7, then I crush you in the center, I play e5 with a tempo, and then e6 with a tempo. And white has a very powerful initiative, and most likely access to e6 square with this route, and yeah, the position looks very, very shaky. But alternatively, instead of knight bd7, if black plays e6, preventing this idea, then white plays on the queen side with b3, and after cb3, ab3, both a and c files became semi-open for white's major pieces. Bishop a3 is a good idea, and white has a full compensation and most likely great initiative and great chances in the middle game. So instead of bishop takes f3, most likely if white plays h3, I don't know where, pretty much it's not a big deal, just black would have to retreat with the bishop, maybe to place it on b7, and it would be very complicated and double-edged fight. I have no clue what would happen, but yeah, it seems to me like Ding. I know that I've seen a post-game conference, and Ding said that he was out of the book at this point, so he came with this c5 move already over the board. And c5 was a very bad move because of d5, and white just got a center, and yeah, it's not totally horrible for black, but now I would say that black is in a one mistake zone, because if you make another mistake, let's say if you play b5, sort of solidifying your pawn structure, and it seems that the black only needs one move to play like knight bd7, and it should be perfectly fine. But the thing is, chess is a very concrete game, and after a move like a4, the most precise one, you can't really get control over your pawns on the queen side, so a6 leads to ab5, and then black simply loses the game. So it's not working, and after d5, white has a full control in the center. They have a space advantage, and pretty much e6 is absolutely the only move not to lose immediately. So Gukesh uses the momentum and plays h3, eliminates his opponent light square bishop, and takes with the bishop with the idea to keep this knight takes c4 idea. So ed happens in the game, and then after spending quite a while, Ding plays knight bd7, a very precise move and very right concept, because otherwise black pretty much has no moves. So, and after knight c4, a very key follow-up of knight bd7 idea is to play b5. So chasing the knight away from its active position, not allowing white to play a4 and stabilize the knight on c4. Then it would be a disaster, but okay, b5, knight goes back to a3, also a very good move by the challenger, and black plays queen b6, also sort of great move, and at this point we can say that Ding most likely managed to find a way to work on his development properly, and of course black still is under the pressure, but at the very least there is no direct way of punishing him for this early aggression with c6, c5. So Gukesh plays very precisely here. He plays bishop f4, and yeah, just his control over the board is literally perfect at this point of the game. And even though there is no direct threat, but this bishop pair clearly dominates knight pair, and in fact it's a nightmare for black. So I really enjoy this Gelfand's quote that on a space advantage, like if you control 40%, 40 squares of the board, then your opponent has only 24 squares. And in this case, no matter who sits in front of you, you should win the game. So it seems that here White has a very decent strategic edge, and Ding pretty much patiently and desperately tries to make some moves and fight for the e-file, but Gukesh keeps the tension with queen d2. So for instance, if it's not so easy to make a move for black, like rook e1 for instance leads to takes, and after rook e8 takes and queen e2, and it's a double attack. And it seems that black is losing some material. So after queen d2, Ding was forced to play some waiting move like rook a d8. Knight c2, another great move by Gukesh, because he's bringing he's improving position of his pieces, and that's also what Gelfand writes in his books, that if either you have some clear target and then you have to strike, either if not, then you just improve your position. So knight c2 is a great move. Knight f8 happened in the game, normal move, and Gukesh fights for the space on the queen side. I like this approach. I think this is very much in the spirit of the Benoni, and I used to play Benoni almost as my main opening for quite a while. And I think this is very much in the spirit of the position. So Gukesh plays b4, and c4 was his opponent's answer. And I think that this is another key moment of this game, because Gukesh was, pressing the whole game, and the best indication for that is the time difference. Gukesh has exactly 1 hour after 19 moves, while Ding was down to 27 minutes. And I'll remind you that it's without increment. So you get increment only after move 40, and until that time, so now it's move 19, still you have to make 21 move in with having 27 minutes. It's a bit more than 1 minute per move in such a complicated position. We already once used the term nightmare, and indeed it's in most of the cases it's almost over, so you need a miracle to save the game. And Gukesh plays slightly unprecisely here, but a very humanish idea to relocate the bishop to d4, just preventing all sorts of ideas where black uses his long diagonal. And I think already several grandmasters mentioned this, that even though the engine claims that position is still somewhat balanced, but there is a very, very tiny road path to keep this balance. And moves like knight 8 to d7 and after a very humanish approach, queen f4 with the idea to invade to c7, maybe then to c6. I don't know, like put more pressure, expand on the king side or even queen side. And then suddenly black has the only move, queen a4, and they're in the game. And they're still fighting for the equality, but based on this very weird queen a4 move and knight a to d7, it's somewhat balanced. In reality, not a single human, especially having only 1 minute for one move, is able to find such a resource. So objectively, the game and Ding's position is very tough, I would say. Not even a little bit. He's in a deep trouble. So, and yeah, obviously he tries to find something more concrete. So, and I don't know, was it already a desperation? It looks like desperado, but maybe practically not a very bad try. Queen takes a2. That's what Ding plays here, and well, rook a1 was also slightly inaccurate from Gukesh, because both of them, once again, both of them missed c3, completely insane resource, with the idea that after queen takes c3 you have intermezzo knight takes d5, and after bishop d5 you have another only move, bishop takes d4 intermezzo, and then you're in time either to get queen out and take the bishop, or you're taking the queen and position is balanced. Completely insane. Not a single human is entering such a sequence, and it's completely fine that players missed such a resource. So after queen b3, Gukesh plays rook a3, hits the queen, but what is most important, protects the bishop. So queen b1, king g2, and yeah, well, Ding is, he has to make some move. Obviously, I've noticed that, yeah, Ding has this passion to keep his pieces somewhere far away. So he already lost in game 3 in a similar fashion when his bishop was locked on c2 square. So now he has a queen on b2, and only by a miracle queen stays alive. So I guess this was another very good illustration by great play by Gukesh at this point, because it's move 25, and he had quite a significant time advantage at this point. However, he did not blitzed out the move, trying to play against time, and Gukesh mainly looked for targets and thought either he can somehow exploit this queen on b1 or unprotected pawn on b5, or is it this pawn, or maybe something else, some prophylaxis and so on. So finally he came to the very fine approach, rook a5. So after queen b3, they decided to repeat position once, and after rook a5, queen b3, he took on b5. So Ding probably does the best thing what you need to do here. He looks for a counterplay, and this was another critical moment for the challenger, because here you have quite a choice, and once again, for those who claims that, oh my goodness, how on earth he could miss the chance to win the game, because at this point the engine claims that position is winning for white, but it's only one move, it's a very tiny path, and it's very inhuman from one point of view and counterintuitive from the other. So the winning move, sort of winning, is bishop e3. You have to go back, and the point is, if queen trades, although black could try something else most likely, white keeps his positional grip, also bishop pair, and well, pawn on c4 is super easy target for the knight or rook, so most likely white should convert it smoothly. But yeah, of course, it's not an easy move, very far from easy move, and at the same time, when you're about 10 minutes at this point and still you have to maybe 15, if you have to make like 10 more moves, you're looking for, you know, some more direct approaches. And of course, Gukesh played a fine move, queen f4, which was second best and still kept an advantage. But you can also easily misplay this position. So let's say if you go queen takes d3, this trade would be horrible for white, because after knight goes somewhere, then d2, and most likely just d1 and rook takes d5, or the other way around, still the same result. Rook takes d5, trade, and very balanced position. So queen d3 would be bad trade. Queen c3, it seems that we're keeping attention, and then we're putting more pressure on f6. Yeah, but guess what? Boom. Knight takes d5, bishop takes d5, and queen c3. And in the end of the day, trade, take, as they say nowadays, and then bishop c4, balanced endgame, just drawn. So all in all, it just means that you have to be very precise, and it's very hard to maintain this level of concentration and being so cold-blooded in such a responsible moment. So queen f4 was a fine move, and didn't capture on c2. Bishop takes f6, and queen f5, hoping for, you know, just trying to neutralize the tension and hope not to lose immediately. At this point, Ding is down to 8 minutes and still has to make 9 moves to reach the time control. At this point, Gukesh decided to get an extra material with 4 sequence of moves. Queen takes f5, gf5, bishop takes g7, and after king g7, rook c5, you're just winning material. Hard to blame him for this decision. I think it was completely fine. Why not? But yeah, according to the engine, once again, bishop g5 is the most precise move, and you sort of keep your bishop pair, and yeah, all these pieces are stuck pretty much. And once again, you are playing against this c4 pawn. Well, this would be something. This is very technical and very unlikely to see in such a situation. So the same try would be possible after trading queens. Bishop g5 was slightly better, but okay, who cares? So yeah, after they traded and rook c5, you know, it's a very forced option. Then white is just simply winning a pawn on c4, and it should be completely fine. So yeah, I think Gukesh said at this point that he was sure that he has a perfect chances to win. And once again, Ding tries to be active. You know, he understands that okay, I'm losing a pawn, but it's this is the smallest price to pay in chess. Yeah, so it's not such a big deal. Although obviously white is just playing for a win, but at the very least he plays for some activity. And yeah, he plays knight e5. So for instance, here Gukesh plays rook d4. This is the right move, but let's say rook c5 runs to knight d3, and some sort of family forks is here and there. So still, position is balanced after any move, like rook c3, king f1, and still everything is fine. But Gukesh plays it very precisely with rook d4. Knight c6 was another trick by Ding. The point is that if you take then rook d4 and rook comes to c4 or c-file somehow and stops the pawn. So for that reason, after knight c6, he plays rook's f4. Knight goes back to e7, protecting and attacking at the same time. That's almost always a good sign. b5 was played by Gukesh, and king comes closer to the center. Rook d4, h6, and king f1 was move 40 by Gukesh. He got half an hour. He's still a pawn up and has a great chances. So Ding was down to 3 minutes to make his last decision, last move before getting half an hour to his clock. And yeah, time was ticking down, 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute, 30 seconds, 20 seconds, 10 seconds, 9, 8, 7 seconds, and then he finally makes a move, and this move was a huge mistake. And the point is, now he missed a chance that instead of going king e5, he could have played knight c8. And I'm very sure that after knight c8, black would have a significant chances to build up a blockade, something like this. So king comes closer, and the main point is that knight on d6 stabilizes everything, keeps control over the pawns, and also blocks the d5 pawn and attacks the pawn on b5. So a completely perfect square for the knight. And we know that knights in general are great blockading pieces. So yeah, after king e5, Gukesh just plays rook h4, and here we go. So knight d5, rook h6. This position is technically winning. Well, first of all, because of the passed pawn. Also, bishop should be better than the knight, and well, all in all, white has an extra pawn. So Ding, I'm very sure he understands everything, and he tries to be active, to outpost his knight on e4. And yeah, this was probably the final moment of this game, although they played like 30 more moves. But I don't know what happened to Gukesh in this moment, because his position is objectively completely winning. So if you give this position to play, for instance, two engines to face each other, and the engine which will play with white will beat the other engine, I'm pretty sure, like maybe 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10. It's just winning position. So with the perfect play, you should win. And there are several ways how to do that. So first of all, the easiest, the most logical, and not a very difficult one is to push h-pawn. Just push Harry to 4th rank, 5th rank, 6th rank, and up to the promotion square. Alternatively, with knight e4, black sort of generates some ideas with rook d2 and maybe, putting some pressure on f2 pawn. But the funny thing is, even if you go king e2, it's just nothing, because rook d2, you just go further, and your next move, you pretty much pre-move bishop takes e4. Black can take on f2. This means they have to go somewhere, let's say rook b2. Then I take, throw a check, you have to go back no matter where, king e6, king d6, and pawns are just rolling up, and I can take on e4, I can throw a couple of checks, collect on a7. It's just 1-0. So yeah, it was quite a surprise. So Gukesh, I don't know, tried to play it like, was it prophylaxis against rook d2 or something? But yeah, this king e1 was quite a mistake. And well, we have to say that the move that was played by Ding also is sort of mistake according to the engine, but I actually like it from a human perspective. I don't care what other grandmasters say here or engine. I think from a practical point of view, it has a very clear idea, clear path to play for the advantage. Not for the advantage, of course, with black, but at least to try to save the game. So you're freeing up the 7th rank. At the same time, rook still protects the pawn on a7, and well, you have these ideas to be active with rook h7, so it should be fine. And another mistake happened here. So he plays h4, although the most natural move. I have to admit that it's just a very natural move, h4. I liked what was the move that was mentioned by Daniel Naroditsky and Peter Leko, this rook c8 that they were covering during the live coverage, and not a very difficult, but just a small illustration. It was also covered during the live show, that after knight g5 there is not a difficult but quite a cute tactics. Rook c5, king goes back, and then white has this trick with rook takes f5. So you're simultaneously protecting the bishop, and also after king f5 you can go bishop g4, collect the rook, and once again it's just 1-0. But yeah, he plays h4, and once again Ding plays very actively, even though he's on the edge, and it's insane emotional roller coaster throughout the whole game 7. But wow, okay, so somehow he's still alive, and it wouldn't be too late to play king e2 here, with still, keeping this decent chances to play for a win, because Harry just runs up to the board. But yeah, probably Gukesh just lost his inner peace at this moment, and after rook d3 he plays bishop d1, and he miscalculated. So the point is that now f4 is the key move, and after this move it's balanced. The position is completely balanced. Yeah, what a brutal way of losing the advantage. And on move 46, it was the first time in this game when black is actually fine. All the time before that, he was struggling and literally on the edge, and even crossing all the red lines, but yeah, somehow he stayed alive. And yeah, okay, the thing is, what he missed is that after trading on f4, I'm pretty sure he wanted to play rook c4, creating a bunch of threats. So you want to play f3 and win a piece. You want to play bishop c2 and take on e4. You want also to take on e4 and then play bishop c2 and get to the winning pawn ending, where Harry does the same thing as in all other lines. But here, by a miracle, or maybe not, black has this rook h3 motif. So f3 suddenly runs to rook h1, and no matter, okay, king goes only to e2, and then rook h2, and you have no other squares because of either rook d2 checkmate after king d3 or king f1, and okay, I can just repeat position, or maybe knight d2. So yeah, it was a cold shower for Gukesh. So he traded on f4, and yeah, here he burned pretty much all of his time. He was down to 30 seconds, and well, I have to say that he sort of found a way how to keep the game alive, and bishop c2 with the idea to play rook c4, and then after f5 rook b4. Still, there is, yeah, Harry still has some chances, but objectively black is completely fine, and he's back in the game. He's playing very aggressively with king f3. So bishop d1, and the key move was king g2. So now black attacks the f2 pawn. You have to react. Yeah, Gukesh played rook b3, creating another threat, which was pretty easy to deal with. Rook e5, so f4, just rook goes back. Knight c5 is in the air, so you have to block the e file, but then he switches to the kingside attack, h5 followed by knight f6, and yeah, the more and more material just disappears from the board. F pawn is not running so quickly, and yeah, black can just take the b pawn and eliminate everything. So bishop a4 was played, king comes closer and closer, and knight comes closer as well, and knight goes to d6. Another time in this game we see that knight blocks the pawn, and knight is a perfect blockading piece. So yeah, at this point Gukesh just made a couple of moves to let the game finish the way how it should finish. So they trade rooks, and Ding gives up all of his material, and the game ends in a draw. What a marathon! What a roller coaster! What a drama! What a fight! What a miss! What a chance! What a tragedy! What a save! What a game! Thank you very much. See you soon.